Hey, good morning, my friends. It is Wednesday, January 17th, 2024. Of course, I'm Hammer with Originator Success here with your daily rate update, the only place on the web where you guys get to be a part of the conversation. Appreciate you joining me. Remember, I am best enjoyed live. You can join me each and every day at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. Hop on the show. Be sure to comment. Let us know that you're here. If you're watching on the replay, though, don't forget to give us a hashtag replay just to let the algorithms know that you were here. Let me know that you were here. Always appreciate that. Whether you're here live or on the replay, don't forget to smash that like button, tag an hello friend, share us in a group. If you're on Facebook, don't forget to subscribe and give us a thumbs up on that stuff. So let's go ahead and say hi to a few of the live folks, and then we'll talk about all the other stuff. We got Mallory Fodiatis here this morning, Deb Dickinson. Good morning, Bobby Searson, Nicole Samarad, Monica Dinkins, Thomas Wolf, Cindy Pulliam, Robert Bashirs. So many familiar faces. I appreciate that y'all join me so often. I really do. It's a great way to start my day. I appreciate you guys being here. So unfortunately, not a great way to start your day. Rates this morning are going to be much worse than yesterday. Quick recap on what happened yesterday. Mortgage bonds lost ground. If we take a look and do a 5-day chart here, you could see kind of a more dramatic movement. So, of course, we were closed on Monday. So this is Friday the 12th right here. And then we jump into the 16th. So bond markets, bonds, they closed right around that 100.50 mark. 100.50-ish on Friday was a nice spot. However, on Tuesday, lost a bit of ground, and then it just continued to get worse through the day. We ended up going from 150, ending the day around 100. That's a big move. We did see a lot of reprices worse yesterday, which was not what we wanted to see. And then this morning, we continued to see that worsen. Why did we see all of this? It has to do with that sentiment about the March rate cut. That sentiment starting to shift. And I'll come back to this and show you more about that in a minute. But this morning, retail sales beat expectations. They actually came in stronger than expected. U.S. retail sales beat expectations in December, and the Bloomberg headline, rise by the most in 3 months to cap the holidays. U.S. retail sales rose at the strongest pace in 3 months in December, capping a solid holiday season that suggests consumer resilience heading into the new year. And basically, here's the deal, right? If we have a strong economy, there's no reason that the Fed has to consider cutting rates yet. Okay. And yesterday's moves were because of Fed Governor Waller coming out and saying almost that exact same thing. Let me go ahead and bump this. Where's my little, oh, bummer. All right. Well, we're just going to leave it up here like that then. Waller came out yesterday and basically said the same thing, right? So the pullback in rate cut bets picked up pace following comments yesterday from the Fed's Christopher Waller. Now, a lot of the different Fed members have come out and said, hey, we don't think that this is going to be a thing. We don't think we're going to see rate cuts in March. And the markets have just shrugged it off. They have just not given it any credibility. However, yesterday was a turning point. That was a pivot. And that now puts us into a position where we want to be locking loans. Now, again, if you're not signed up for our text alerts, yesterday we did send out a text alert. You want to sign up for those. www.ratetextalerts.com. We send out a morning alert, an afternoon alert, and then alerts when there's risk of reprices worse. And yesterday, as a great example, let me go ahead and pull this up and show you guys why you want to be a member and why you want to be looking at this. Here you go. Here is the, let me make this. There you go. All right. He put this on my wall. Just wanted to let you know I locked 2 loans in just now, right before my company reprice worse, because I got your rate alert text. You the man. So you don't have to spend a lot of money to protect your pipeline. Check us out at www.ratetextalerts.com, but definitely do look to protect your pipeline with something like that. Anyway, as we take a look here, Christopher Waller, he talked about the fact that the Fed doesn't need to cut rates if inflation and the market is doing all right. So let me adjust this and put this. There we go. Right, a little smaller, Okay, right about there. Okay, good. So Fed can cut rates this year absent inflation rebound, Waller says. That headline makes it sound good, but really wasn't. The Reserve Governor Christopher Waller said the U.S. Central Bank should take a cautious and systematic approach when it begins cutting interest rates, a process that can start this year absent a rebound as in inflation. As long as inflation doesn't rebound and stay elevated, I believe the FOMC will be able to lower rates. So this is what we call a dovish comment. This should have been good, but it wasn't dovish enough. When the time is right to begin lowering rates, I believe it can and should be lowered methodically and carefully with economic activity and labor markets in good shape. So, for example, the retail sales report that we got this morning showing the economy in good shape, right? Labor market data that we've gotten, some cracks in the foundation, but overall not bad. Well, he says, I see no reason to move as quickly or cut as rapidly as in the past. Now, remember, generally, in the past, when the Fed is cutting rates, they're cutting rates to stimulate the economy because we're already in a recession and things are already bad. Right now, it's almost like preempting, right? They're expecting that if they were to keep rates at this level, eventually it would choke out the economy. Now, we could talk about lag and how all these Fed rate cuts, it takes time for the economy to reflect it and all these things. But the bottom line is, even with lag, the Fed hasn't raised rates in months now. All of the rate raising is done, and yet the economy is still pumping along. Now, we could also point out that credit is at record levels. People are spending money they don't have, but we have not seen any legitimate signs that this is going to fall apart. We haven't seen any signs. Sorry, I guess we haven't seen any signs of a credit bubble. So without that, we can't expect that that's going to break down like in 2008 and destroy the economy. All right. So, that's there. Now, Robert Bashir said he should tell the people that are struggling that due to inflation. I don't disagree, Robert. There's a lot of people that are struggling and there always will be. But as far as the Fed's looking at it, when you've got reports like the retail sales coming in with these super strong numbers, they're certainly not struggling enough is the argument. And again, I know that there are people that can't make ends meet. Totally get that. Totally feel for that. But the data is what they're looking at. And the data shows people are still spending money. And until that really slows down, we're not going to see that change as far as that goes. So where does that leave us? Well, again, rate sheets this morning going to be worse than yesterday as we stack this morning's losses on top of yesterday's losses. So we are down about 80 basis points just over the last couple of days. And the big shift on that is here. And it's because remember, we were down to 23% probability that the Fed would leave rates unchanged. That's now up to 40%. And I think this will continue rising. So we've talked before that reprice risk would grow and that rates would creep higher when the Fed starts to price in the fact that the Fed may just leave rates alone in March. So sentiment shifting, putting us in a position. Yesterday, we issued a lock alert. Today, I'm in a lock stance. Locking anything is closing under 30 days because rates are still low. We've seen rate sheets get affected. We're off those best levels, but we're right back where we were last week. And we could see rates continue to creep higher from here if the sentiment continues to worsen. Now, today, we do have quite a few different Fed speakers. Let's see. There we are. Coming up today, we've got the Fed will release its Beige Book. Now, its Beige Book is basically the breakdown of the different Fed sections and how the economies are doing in that section. Probably not going to see a lot of help from that, though. Again, it's going to show a lot of what we've already seen. Some reasons where there's some economic slowdown, but not enough to scare anybody. Here's what we do want to be aware of. A slew of other speakers from the bank will be up to bat, including John Williams and Michelle Bowman. Given the pullback in rate cut bets, those will be watched closely. So these situations where we see that turnaround in sentiment, they start to build momentum. And it's very likely that we see this momentum build against us and that we see the idea that the Fed will hold rates in March start to gain some ground. As that continues to happen, rates are going to creep up a little bit. We're not going to 7.5 for 8%, y'all. But as far as where, is it a good time to lock? It's a good time to lock. So give me a minute. I just have to update what I've got here. Lock advice. Oops. If it closes in the next 30 days, consider locking. I'm going to go ahead and post that on the screen. So my advice, if it's closing the next 30 days, consider locking. We lost a little bit of ground yesterday. Hopefully, those of you that were our text alert subscribers, you've got the alert and you were able to lock in loans before the reprices were yesterday. $7 a month. How do you let that slip away, right? But if you're not a subscriber for that, definitely consider locking today. Ron, let's see. So Scott said, are people spending more because they're making more due to the strong job market? To an extent. Also, Scott, what happens is when we have a strong job market, people feel strongly about that job market. They don't feel like they have to worry about losing their job, and they're more comfortable going deeper in debt. It's been proven that that's kind of a scenario. If I'm afraid of losing my job, I'm going to tighten things up. So people are not afraid of losing their job. So that's certainly one strength on there. Ron Siegel replied and said the spending is mostly from buy now, pay later, which does not show on credit reports. When those start to default, that is when we see the stuff hit the fan. Ron, I agree with some of that, but again, at the same point, my son just bought an F-150, was able to buy a $60,000 truck with zero money down. They would have let him extend that loan out 7 years. I think it might even have been I think it was a 7-year loan. His payment right now, $1,300. You guys say, Hammer, that's irresponsible. How's your kid going to buy a house when he's got a $1,300 a month car payment? The reality is that by the time he wants to buy that house, hopefully his $1,300 a month car payment is paid off. That's why he has a $1,300 a month car payment. I don't want him to go upside down on the equity on the, and we're hoping that does that. Plus, not going to lie, I'm bougie, and so far we have self-financed the homes for my family and given them 2% interest rates. So pretty good. Anyway, that's it for y'all, my friends. That's all we got going on. It is definitely the thing to really focus on here is there has been a clear shift in momentum. We are seeing it here on the idea of when the Fed will cut rates and how much rates they will cut next year. Now we are seeing, before it was, we were at 3.5 was a big difference. If we compare this, look at this, look at that last week, or even just yesterday, look at this, 35%. Now that's dropped to 22%. And that shows you the big difference on where we are. And the idea that we'd be at 4 yesterday was at 15%. Today it's at 26%. Markets are accepting the idea that we are not going to see the Fed need to cut as aggressively next year. Recession's not coming along the way that we've seen in the past. This was an interesting article, though, I will mention. Bond traders start to hedge against half-point Fed rate cut in March. Fed futures, do they show any of that in March? Do we see the idea that they're good? 1.5% for I just don't see it. But it's kind of funny, again, when you start to see this, bond traders started to scoop up options, hedging against the prospect that the Fed Reserve kicks off its easing cycle with a half-point interest rate cut in March. Highly, highly unlikely. But it was an interesting article nonetheless. So anyway, that's it for me, y'all. Robert Bashir said we went from talks of cutting rates 4 times. Now they're saying 6. No, the markets have been looking at 6 for quite a while, Robert. The Fed said 3. The Fed they have stuck to 3. And that's kind of what's been so surprising, is that Fed members have been out there saying that markets are overcooking this situation and that we're not going to do that. But what happened was markets, remember, Fed futures is reflecting what traders are doing, where markets are. They have been pricing 6 rate cuts or 1.5 bips, 150 basis points, 1.5 points rather, 150 basis points. Whether they were half point cuts in there, generally you're not going to see half point cuts unless we were to see a very, very serious decline in economic condition, which is just not likely. But anyway, markets have been pricing in 6 cuts. The Fed members have been saying 3. When we go to that dot plot, let's go to the chart here. The dot plot, they're ending 2024 with up here at 4.5, and we're at 5.25. That's only 3/4 point hikes that the Fed has basically priced in. Very few Fed members think that we'll be below that. More of them think we'll be above that. Markets have been blowing it off though. So now we're starting to see that turn. Markets coming to a more realistic realization that, hey, maybe these Fed members are right. So that's kind of where we're at. Scott said, my company keeps giving raises and bonus to keep employees due to upfront training costs. Scott, I definitely would see value to that as well. And I think we need that, but that's a totally different thing. Ron Siegel, let me go ahead and hit. Ron Siegel said, looks like Bill Gross hit this one on the head, sold his bonds in December and expected the prices to drop. Yeah, I do remember where he came in on that. Actually, I read a follow-up piece on that a couple weeks ago. So in my humble opinion, a half point cut would only happen in the current environment if we have an escalation of war. That's a very good point. And by the way, I mean, we have politics. There's a lot of weird things that are going to happen this year. We do have politics. We've got the presidential race that's going to come on. We also have the escalation of what's going on in the Middle East, Iran and Iraq getting involved in this, the US, the UK, basically we have, done some small attacks against, retaliating against and protecting against attacks we got from Iran. There's some escalation there, but it's very unlikely. And as much as you see, I'll tell you what, Ron, if we did see war, that could drive the economy. We've seen it before. So it's definitely something to keep in mind. But anyway, y'all, it's 16 minutes in. I went a little longer than I would have rather have. Thank you for joining me. Remember, you can join me live each and every day at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time as we do the videos. If you'd like to sign up for a text alert to be reminded when I go live, you can go ahead and sign up. There's a link it's going to post for you here. You can go to hmmr.io/live-reminder, or you can use this cool QR code. Just take your phone and go back on your computer and find me on Facebook or on YouTube, and you'll find this link at the end of the video. All right. Also, don't forget to check us out at originatorssuccess.com. Find out how we get you loans from Google and social media. And don't forget to sign up for those text alerts. Protect your pipeline. That stuff does happen. It's why yesterday you would have wanted those, because reprice risk was low, but when it hits, and it was Waller that seems to have kicked it off today. We've got a lot of Fed speakers. Could be in for a bit of a bad day. You want to make sure that you're going to stay protected against that. Make sure you're on our text alert list. All right, my friends, have a fantastic one. I will see y'all tomorrow. Bye-bye.